Hello and welcome to the Cleveland Guardians Disastrous Name Change presentation. My name is Dan Lust. I am one of the hosts of Conduct Detrimental. I am a practicing attorney in New York. I'm a sports and entertainment lawyer for the law firm of Garagos and Garagos. I'm also the sports law professor at New York Law School. Alongside me today is Mike Lawson. Mike, you want to give a little bit of a brief intro?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. So my name is Mike Lawson. I'm a producer and co-host of Conduct Detrimental as well. I'm an associate attorney for O'Connell and Aronowitz in Albany, New York, and I'm in their litigation and criminal defense practice. I've been with O'Connell and Aronowitz for approximately 16 months, mainly working in personal injury matters, but I've been with Conduct Detrimental for over 2 years now.
Yeah, so the story today is one that I think that practitioners should know and that most sports fans know. I actually think that it's maybe a little bit underserved, but the fine folks over at Quimbee reached out to us and they said that this was one of our favorite topics that we had covered. And as Mike and I will get into, it's a story that Conduct Detrimental, for better or for worse, we helped kind of create. And I think we are part of the narrative. When the story of the Cleveland Guardians roller derby baseball saga is written, I think we at least deserve a footnote in here, as we'll explain. So at a really high level, and I guess we should take one step back. Mike and I host a show called, and we have Dan Wallach, a colleague of ours. We have a number of hosts that kind of come through, but we're a team of lawyers that work in the sports law space. Mike and I happen to do it for our real jobs. I have sports and entertainment clientele. Mike works on the sports betting side, on the legislation side. So we have this intersection of sports and law. We cover on our show, Conduct Detrimental, all stories that hit at this intersection. It could be the Major League Baseball lockout. It could be name, image, and likeness. And I have a feeling for Quimbee, we're going to be touching on a lot of these stories, in subsequent presentations. But this story was one that uniquely came across our radar. Just a brief background, and then we'll get into it. But Cleveland Indians, people have known them for nearly a century as Cleveland's baseball team. As we've seen in sports, some teams are starting to change their names, which we'll get into. The Washington Redskins changed their name to the Washington Commanders, and the Indians happened around the same time. So they announced that they were changing their name, which we'll get into the whole timeline. Eventually, they settled on the name the Cleveland Guardians. That name, as fate would have it, was already in use by another Guardians. In fact, another Guardians within the state of Cleveland. Yes, there was already the Cleveland Guardians, which is, you might imagine, has some IP issues that were raised. So we'll just say this is probably a how-to on how not to change your name. And that's why we settled on the title for this presentation, the Disastrous Name Change of the Cleveland Guardians. So Mike, I'm going to hand it to you. Can you give our listeners kind of a overview on what we're going to cover today?
Yeah, let's dive into a little bit of a roadmap here. This video is going to cover the Cleveland Guardians roller derby lawsuit against the Cleveland Guardians baseball company and the trademark implications, as we'll dive into the specific natures of their lawsuit. Trademark lawsuits are typically brought by the owner of a mark to protect and prevent others from using their marks and thus damaging their brand. The Lanham Act is the federal law that provides trademark registration and protects the owners of their marks. The main issue we'll be focusing on here is what we'll discuss a numerous amount of times, is the likelihood of consumer confusion and the remedy being an injunction which prevents a secondary user from using the primary owner's mark. This video is going to cover the registration process under the Lanham Act and one's ability to sue to protect a mark from trademark infringement. And obviously, as Dan said, how the Cleveland Indians bungled their name change.
I like it, Mike. I like it. And I especially like that we're talking about a billion-dollar organization bungling their name change. So sometimes even those fancy lawyers, the ones, the big baseball teams, those guys can make mistakes too. So we'll unpack it, but this is certainly a how-to and how not to do certain things. Okay. So let's get into it, right? The Cleveland Indians were tasked with changing their name. So it sounds like it's a simple process. We're going to get a little bit into the dates and whatnot, but certainly there were obstacles. And certainly I think something as simple as Google, right? A Google search probably would have been helpful here, as crazy as that sounds. But from our research, really one of two things happened. Either that they failed to do their due diligence and they didn't realize there was another Cleveland Guardians, which we'll speak about today, or maybe worse yet, they knew there was another Cleveland Guardians and just didn't think that this roller derby team, again, as crazy as this sounds, yes, a roller derby team went head to head with the baseball team. Maybe baseball didn't think roller derby team would do it, but that's certainly what we had. Yeah, at a really high level, the roller derby team had used the name for, in a handful of years. Some dispute as to whether it was a decade, but it was at least 5 years.